creation that made the first day, evening, and morning. May that same Spirit enter our hearts now. And may it make way for your word for our lives this day. In Jesus' name I pray. The text we turn to this morning is from Mark's Gospel, chapter 1, verses 4 through 11. I invite you to listen now, listen new, listen fresh for the word of the Lord. And so John came, baptizing in the desert region and preaching a baptism of repentance for the forgiveness of sins. The whole Judean countryside and all the people of Jerusalem went out to him. Confessing their sins, they were baptized by him in the Jordan River. John wore clothing made of camel's hair and a leather belt around his waist, and he ate locusts and wild honey. And this was his message. After me will come one more powerful than I, the thongs of whose sandals I am not worthy to stoop down and untie. I baptize you with water, but he will baptize you with the Holy Spirit. At that time, Jesus came from Nazareth in Galilee and was baptized by John in the Jordan. As Jesus was coming up out of the water, he saw heaven being torn open and the Spirit descending on him like a dove. And a voice came from heaven, "You are my Son, whom I love. With you I am well pleased." The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. This Sunday has just about everything that a reformed liturgical junkie needs and can handle. Not that there are any of those here. Right? Check this out. Yesterday, I was talking about this with a few before, marked the day of Epiphany. That was yesterday. Always January 6th in our calendar. The 12th day of Christmas was yesterday. So you now have permission, right, to turn off your Christmas lights, to take down the Christmas tree, to stop saying Merry Christmas if you want. Yeah, you're good to go. No, I disagree. So, today's worship, as you've already gathered, is in part about Epiphany. It's about the celebration of the gift of the Magi. Gifts brought to this newborn king. The liturgical symbolism everywhere in that. Now get this. It just so happens to be the first of the month today, this Sunday. Guess what we do every first of the month, right? No surprise. So we get to also, while we're thinking about Epiphany, we get to gather at the table of the Lord. And we get to receive these gifts that God gives us in the form of these means of grace, this bread and this juice. We get to approach the table kind of with the attitude of the Magi. We give these gifts ourselves to the King. But unlike the Magi, we return with gifts ourselves. Gifts of grace. That's amazing. Communion is a gift. It's this rhythmic reminder in the month in our lives just to stop for a minute, to slow down. Let service be 5-10 minutes longer. And taste and see that the Lord is good for us. So we get to do that. Today also, liturgically, the Sunday after Epiphany, no matter if Epiphany falls the day before or the week before, the Sunday after Epiphany also marks when we look at the baptism of the Lord. That's what we just read. And that is of crucial recognition. We can't ignore that in our ministry. It does seem like there is a sudden jump, though, right? From baby Jesus to Magi visiting and shepherds, and to all of a sudden we're talking about Him, grown, adult, being baptized. But you know what? That's what the scriptures do too. Not a lot is said about Jesus from youth to adulthood. Baptism, when his ministry begins. So this Sunday that marks the baptism of the Lord is important to our story. It has to be told as we go forward because it is the catalyst. It's the beginning point to talk about all the rebel-rousing ministry that Jesus accomplishes in his life. That's what we're going to do from now till Easter, before Holy Week. And it comes quick this year. Ash Wednesday is February 14th, Valentine's Day. It's just over a month away. It's Lent. Jesus' baptism is important because it reminds us of something crucial, that Jesus' first step of ministry, the first step of ministry was not defeating temptation. It was not healing someone or resurrecting someone or turning water into wine. His first step of ministry was none of those things. His first step was to be dunked and baptized and then to be beloved by his Father. And this Sunday today also happens to take place one day, just one day, after we did celebrate and we did say goodbye in worship to a good friend and a good servant, David Evans. Many of you were there. Yesterday was an extraordinary day, and many of you here paid witness, as I said, to the resurrection once again. That's what we do. We celebrated together that David lived a good life, and he did that day by day by day, rhythmically. So today, here we are. We're going to soak up all of that liturgical wonderfulness, and we're going to stand at the crossroads that we find ourselves in of worship and being ordinary people. We're going to seek to find together the beautiful liturgy that is available to each of us in the ordinary and everyday life. Sundays are easy to find liturgy, right? You're in it. You're here. Here's what we're going to start doing, is seeking where we can find that in the everyday life. Yesterday at David's funeral, I reflected on this phrase. You heard it if you were here, that I heard David told one of his close friends in answer to the question of how is it that you are in such a good mood all the time? How is it you are easygoing, positive, and content? David's answer to that friend was that every day when he woke up, he said, he made the choice. He woke up and he said, today is going to be a good day. And I talked yesterday how simply profound that statement is for all of us. And I reflected a lot on that. And as I reflect more and more, it is that very first choice of the day that really does matter the most. And you know what? That first moment of the day, as we discuss at Children's Time, is universal for all of us. I had my numbers all wrong. If you're 30 years old, you've woken up roughly. I was adding way more days to my life than I needed to. If you're 30 years old, you wake up only 10,950 times. Okay, you still my heart. And that is give or take for the 30-year-old, the occasional all-nighter that he might pull, or being a new parent, night shift, etc. Roughly, we've woken up from a slumber 10,950 times because you know what? You gotta sleep. That's one thing you can't go many days without. You gotta get up, each and every one of us. It is a part of the human condition. So now we do the math, and you should feel more comfortable if you happen to be 60 years old, because you've been stirred awake roughly 21,900 times in this life. So that's not that many, right? If you're 80 years old, 29,200 times you've woken your eyes. Every day is a new day. A lot of things happen to us in a day, but every day begins in the most simplest way of opening your eyes for the first time. We're going to study the liturgy of the ordinary for the next weeks. And the first step of the liturgy of the ordinary day is simply waking up. That is step one for all of us. From now until Palm Sunday, we're going to be taking the ordinary of the day together, one day, through the day, and finding God in it. We'll take an ordinary day in our ordinary lives, and through it we're going to seek together how we can find God more present with us. Each week as our guide, we're going to be taking a chapter from this book I read last year. I forgot to bring it up here with me. But you know what? If you want to purchase it and follow along, by all means. Her name's Tish Harrison Warren, and the book is called Liturgy of the Ordinary. She expounds, she goes moment by moment through the day. Now, some topics that we're going to cover these next weeks are really going to strike a lot of you and say, wow, that's me. And some topics won't, because every day is different. But you know which one is universal for all of us? Waking up in the morning. Her first chapter is waking, baptism, and learning to be beloved. Some of you out there, I know, wake up energized and ready, don't you? Some wake up jolted by the alarm, don't you? Whether that comes in human form, or iPhone form, or old school form. Some wake up and say, it's morning already, right? And some wake up and say, it's morning already, right? Okay, this sermon is not about just how you wake up. This is not an attitude thing. This is not a motivational speech to get you woken up. It's not saying, get your 8 hours of rest at night. That's not what this is. Because waking up is actually much deeper than just that. That's so superficial. You should get 7 hours. This is about the reality of knowing that before you wake up, realizing before you wake up, before you prove anything in your day to anyone, you are chosen first. You are beloved by God. Before you've had the chance to earn anything, right or wrong, boring or excitement, you were chosen and beloved. And Jesus, of course, is our guide to proving that. Check out Jesus' baptism. Warren writes of Jesus' baptism, she writes, it's remarkable that when the Father declares at Jesus' baptism, when he says, this is my Son who I love, I am well pleased, Jesus has not yet accomplished much of anything that many would find very impressive. He has not yet healed anyone. He hasn't resisted Satan in the wilderness. He hasn't yet been crucified and resurrected. It would make more sense if the Father's proud announcement came after something grand or glorious, like the triumphant moment after feeding a multitude, or the big reveal after Lazarus is raised. Then God said, look, this is my Son, whom I love. No. Jesus was baptized before. He was baptized so he could then go and do. Jesus was proclaimed by God as beloved so he could set out then to go and live. And so it is with each of you. Could this profound gift of grace, this reminder that we are beloved, find itself every day into our ordinary lives? Could it? Could we be reminded of it? Could we remind ourselves that grace and blessedness and being beloved are not something that we must wake up and set out to earn in the day, but it is a gift that is present in our first waking breath and every breath before and after? Could we be reminded of that again? Can we remember that we are not scored by a meter of accomplishment or by our badge of exhaustion, but we already are beloved by God from the get-go? That's easy to preach. It's fun to preach. I love preaching that. But I've also learned from practice that it isn't the easiest thing to do when it comes down to it every morning. Take last night for an example in my life. I stayed up late. We had movie night here, so if there's any popcorn in me, any residue, I apologize. That's right. We tried to get it. We stayed up late. We watched a couple movies with the youth here. That was after a big day, right? Stayed up late, went to bed late, had a 3-year-old visitor to bed sometime in the night. Don't even look at the clock anymore. And then we had a 1-year-old sounding the alarm, which she's usually pretty good, but she sounded the alarm pre-5 a.m. So it's ironic that Suzanne and I are thinking, we're preaching this today, right? So of those 21,000 some odd days that many of you have woken up, some of those days probably have seemed to be pretty mundane. Maybe after a lack of sleep or a restless night. Or maybe just the day nothing happened, you say. Automatic in nature in what you do. You woke up, whatever, you went to work, got done, another day in the books. So it's easy for me to stand and proclaim, this is the day that the Lord has made on the Lord's day. It is really easy on Sunday for me to do that. It seems less profound on a random Tuesday to do that. But we have to understand that Tuesday is no less the day that the Lord has made. That is from a psalm. Warren writes of this psalm. The psalmist declares, this is the day that the Lord has made. This one. We wake not to a vague or a general mercy from some far-off God. God, in delight and wisdom, has made, named, and blessed this average day. So what I, in my weakness, see as another monotonous day in a string of days, God has given as a singular gift. When Jesus died for his people, he knew me by my name in the particularity of this day. Christ didn't redeem my life theoretically or abstractly. The life I dreamed of living or the life I think I ideally should be living. No. He knew I'd be in today as it is. In my home where it stands. In my relationships with their specific beauty and brokenness. In my particular sins and struggles. This is the day the Lord has made. You and I are being formed and reformed by God. It is a godly project that God is the master of, and that is concluded and perfected only in God. God is forming us into a new people, and the place of that formation comes in the small moments of each day. It all matters. It all matters to God. And all of that mattering starts with waking up. As something you're going to do tens of thousands of times, only naturally becomes a given and a mundane thing. But please know that it does not have to. Jesus approached that river and he splashed in the silty Jordan River water for you and for me, for our lives, both the extraordinary days and the ordinary ones. The waking call of baptism is not to go out then and live this amazing life that cannot be touched by hurt or pain or depression. You're above all that. You're baptized. That's not how it works. That is not gospel. The waking call of baptism is to take the ordinary and to find God's presence wrapped in it. The waking call of baptism is to find the ordinary and then find God's presence in it each and every day. And then to remember your baptism and to give thanks. As I close sermon today, I want to share with you a mindful break written by someone named Shonda Morales. What's a mindful break, you ask? Well, I'm happy to explain. Mindful break is a simple opportunity throughout the day to stop or to slow down and to be mindful of where you're at when it all becomes so automatic, right? This mindful break is called waking with gratitude. It's something to practice, something to listen to. She writes, for this mindful break, as soon as you are conscious enough to realize you are awake-ish, pause, take a deep breath, And then in parentheses, at first this may not be until you have stumbled out of bed to attend to a child, right? Or you have poured your first cup of coffee, that's fine. Pause wherever you are. After practicing for a bit, you will catch yourself sooner and sooner before you make your way out of bed. Then bring to mind those things which you are grateful. Perhaps it is your health, your children, your spouse, friends, coffee, birds singing, rain coming down. Keep it simple and keep it positive. Throughout your day, then take note of the mindfulness shifts your perception, how this mindfulness shifts your perception of those things normally taken for granted into a greater sense of appreciation. In other words, wake up and intentionally say thank you. Be mindful. Give thanks for this day, one of many, one of tens of thousands. Give thanks for this day. This day is redeemed and beloved. Give thanks for this day. You are redeemed and beloved. Next week, in the Liturgy of the Ordinary, making the bed. Can't wait.